What is going on, everybody? BobbyFi back with my man Eric Sheets-Haber. We're going to be doing a little BetQL show today. We're going to talk about some straight-up sports bets, but mostly we're going to focus on the baseball slate and some DFS stuff. We're going to talk a little bit about the basketball slate. Real quickly, I'm going to show and make sure you can see this part of my screen. Sheets, can you see my DraftKings screen right here?
Yes.
See my DraftKings. All right. Well, let me real quick. I'm just going to go through because we talked about basketball already on another show you can check out on my YouTube channel. But right now we're doing this one for BetQL, and we'll put it up on our channel as well. But just want to give you guys an idea, just real quickly. I mean, I made one mock lineup on DraftKings. This is sort of what I came up with. Sheets, we talked about a lot of the guys. Who are some of the guys who you're going to end up focusing on this NBA slate?
Yeah, you scared me a little bit with the amount of ownership these guys are going to end up taking. But just as far as who the good plays are, I like both of the centers that you used here quite a bit, Jokic and Jared Allen. I mean, they're coming from different games, obviously, but I think the two of them kind of stand out. And the other real standout play, which is in part he's a good play anyway, but also especially due to the injury of Jaren Jackson Jr. is Brandon Clark. I mean, he's going to be very popular and for good reason. Of the other guys that you put in here, I like the Troy Brown call. I mean, we talked about this in a previous review that they're really looking for him to be kind of like the go-to guy, and he's had some pretty good games. And look, defensively, it's not exactly the greatest matchup you want to be a part of going against Philadelphia. But with Embiid, if Embiid sits, I mean, it certainly helps. Any team playing against them. You know what I mean?
Look what wings have been doing to those guys. I mean, you got 53 from T.J. Warren on you the other day for Philly, so maybe we can keep that going. Yeah,
T.J. Warren is just like another stratosphere human being right now. I don't even know what that is.
He's the MVP, the bubble MVP for sure. But yeah, this is just a mock lineup of things we went through. We talked about a lot of other guys we like. Real quick, I'll just go through some of the things that we mentioned.
We could go through our favorite guys in each game. It shouldn't take too long.
Okay, let's go ahead. So we'll just do it using my screen this time. All right, talk about it real quick about your favorite players from the Memphis.
So Memphis side, Brandon Clark is my favorite play, and then going down the list quite significantly would be John Morant. But I also feel as though Brandon Clark becomes way too popular, as you were kind of alluding to. You don't really have to play him. For the Utah side, I like all the guards really. I like Jordan Clark, I like Mike Conley, and I like Donovan Mitchell. I'm not going to get to Gobert just because I like other centers more, but I can see the case being made, and those are my favorites in that game.
Yeah, I like that. And then just real quick, taking a look at it from a straight betting angle, I don't have an interest in betting this one. We have the Jazz -5.5. I actually haven't. We'll see what free games they have for us on BetQL today, but I know this isn't one of them. And I think I probably would just leave this one alone. Make sense?
That's really straight. I would never see. I would never have imagined that Utah be a 5-point favorite over Memphis. That's kind of interesting to me.
It doesn't surprise. That's about what I would have guessed, especially with Jackson hurt. But not that changes everything. But I do think that I don't know. It's interesting. They still have things to play for. Both of them a little bit. All right, let's move on. We'll go to I sort of I agree with what you said. I'm playing some Jordan Clarkson. I am a little bit lower on Ja than other people are going to be. But I love, obviously Brandon Clark. And then I'm interested in Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert as well. We'll get to that on my Fanduel lineups. I'll just show that as quickly at the end. Talking about Philadelphia, Washington. All right, so just on if Embiid is going to play, he's going to be my favorite center overall, especially because I'm in fact playing a lot more on Fanduel. How about you, Sheets? I know that we talked about it on the other show, but you want to reiterate your Jokic?
Yeah, I like Embiid as probably my third favorite center. So he'll probably make my lineup, especially on FanDuel when I'm going to be playing, several. Let's put it that way. I liked Simmons fine. I didn't really like much else on Philly. And on the Washington side, we talked about Troy Brown a little bit. I did mention that Jerome Robinson is starting to get more run. He's making the most of it. So he might be a guy. Again, it's not exactly that cheap, but he's a guy you might at least want to take a look at. And That's pretty much all I had. I think it could end up being an ugly game if Embiid plays. But that's just my opinion. I truly don't have much in this
It
game.
seems logical that it would be, but we've just seen so many times this Philly team just play down the competition and not really blow anybody out ever, especially because they don't really have home games anymore. So I don't know. That's why I'm sort of a little bit more intrigued in playing some of the Philly players. I like Ben Simmons. I like, obviously like Embiid. I think all of these guys on Fanduel are too cheap. Harris over on Fanduel is 6,900. He's a great play over there. I don't like him as much at 86 over here. But I'm going to throw out Brown, and then I'm going to throw out one really wild card play. And that's going to be Mo Wagner. So Embiid draws the most fouls basically of any center in the game. And you have Thomas Bryant, who's, one of the 10 or 15 most foul-prone players, maybe bigs. I don't know. He's really foul-prone. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but if that does happen, because they'll need to match up with Embiid, and even when they don't, he'll get some run anyway. Those minutes could easily become like 26. And if that happens, I do have a little bit of interest in Wagner, especially because he can sort of take Embiid a little bit away from the basket at times. And I don't know, it's just an interesting, there aren't the same great values. So he's a wild off the board play, but not somebody I'm going to spend too much time on. Really, it's just Troy Brown on Washington for me mostly.
Sounds good to me.
All right. Denver, San Antonio, just going real quickly. Again, I'll try and touch on these straight bets. The Denver, San Antonio, we already talked about, but what did we just miss here? Oh, I skipped over because they're at the same time. I think that if I was going to bet this game, I would probably bet the under, but I don't the Philly Washington game, but I don't think I would touch it on this. How about you? Any interest in $100?
From the betting perspective?
Yeah. 10.5 is a lot to give up.
No.
Okay, let's leave that one alone then. This one is actually interesting because the Spurs are 3-point favorites against the Nuggets, which is we've got the Nuggets as a 1-star bet over here on BetQL. I just think, again, this is another one. I'm going to sound repetitive. I think I'm going to leave this one alone too. I do kind of like the Spurs to win the game, but I don't know that I'd want to lay any points. And it's Denver -3. My bad. Wait, what am I looking at? I actually think that I would consider betting on the Spurs then. And we've got Denver actually to cover the 3, but the Spurs are desperate. That's what I've got. And Denver really isn't and hasn't looked especially good, even though they've been good enough when it mattered, I guess, so far. So I think I'd leave San Antonio and actually, throw $100 on San Antonio today if I was going to be having time to make some regular straight sports bets.
All right, so you and I have $1 on this one then, because I think the Nuggets win this game by 1,000. I think that
you're with me.
You know what? And it goes back to a couple of days ago when somehow they had OKC as like a 6-point favorite over Denver. I think Denver's really good, and with what's his name back, maybe Jamal Murray, and I think San Antonio will have no answers for Jokic, and I think they get their asses kicked. That's going to be my sports bet of the day.
Yeah, if Murray plays, I think there's a better chance of that. But I still think that I like San Antonio a lot in this spot. And
the good thing is we already forgot what our dollar bets were from the other day, so I don't even remember.
Oh, I know. We got to keep track of this stuff. Once we get a little bit of bigger audience, we'll have somebody else keep track for us. All right. So we've got So from a DFS perspective, we like Jokic. We talked about that. We talked earlier on a show about we like Porter Jr. as a wild card play. More so on FanDuel, but anybody else really doing it for you here, assuming that Murray's in for Denver?
No, but what you might want to do, like you mentioned at the end of the show, is that if Michael Porter Jr. continues to be if he becomes unowned with Murray back, I mean he could score 50 points again. So I would throw him in GPPs.
Yeah, good matchup for him. A good matchup for everybody. San Antonio is playing fast and loose, so I do like that a little bit. And I'm finding myself on the San Antonio side being, I don't know, man. I'm just sort of like not really all that excited about any of these guys at the ownerships they're going to be. Murray's going to be really popular. I think maybe at a lesser owned, although he'll have some ownership, DeMar DeRozan against Jokic in a little mini thing. I could throw him in here and have that little combo stack instead of Tatum. It's interesting to me. I'm just, and then Podol makes some sense, but I just like other centers better. So I'm just not playing many of them.
Okay.
I also do have a take on this game the more I think about it, on this betting aspect of it. I think you bet the under no matter what. I don't, like Denver doesn't play in 227 games. I know San Antonio has been all over the place and they're scoring like crazy and they're giving up 1 million points, but Denver doesn't really do that. And I would just be concerned that this game could reach that total. So I actually would lean the under on this, San Antonio maybe in the under is where I would be leaning on that. All right, moving on. OKC and the Lakers, strictly from a betting standpoint, I think it's kind of interesting. The Lakers are -6. I kind of like a little bit of OKC here, but I don't think I would probably make this bet. How about you?
I agree with you on that. I think that I had asked you before if the Lakers are just kind of going to start mailing it in, getting ready for the playoffs. Now that they have the 1 seed kind of wrapped up, and you're like, well, that's just really not the way they roll. But I don't know. I just think it's only natural that they would kind of, I don't want to say coast, but I guess coast is the best word I can come up with. And I'll tell you who's not coasting is Shea. He didn't really have the great game as chalk, but I was actually watching the game, and when he wanted to, he was extremely active. So I'm kind of into the OKC plus the 6 in this. Actually,
I think so.
I'll give that a 0.5 star special or something like that.
Yeah.
So, and with that said, also I kind of like from the OKC side of the ball. I like Chris Paul, who I never like. Screw him. I shouldn't say that. I guess he's fine. I just don't like playing him, and I prefer Shea. So maybe I'll play Shea from that side. And on the Lakers side, from a DFS perspective, I just like Davis than LeBron in this particular spot.
Yeah, Davis over LeBron. I'm gonna go really quick from now on because we gotta make up some time, because if they're gonna see this basketball stuff before the games start, we probably need to.
Oh, I forgot about that.
So Chris Paul, I like him better on Fanduel. Shea, I'm fine with. Gallinari, I think, is a good GPP play, as is Steven Adams, in my opinion. Dort, you could throw into a lineup over here. He's playing 1 million minutes, and I've actually seen him on a winning lineup or two, because even at the 19 fantasy points on a thin value night, which we don't have many of, but this is one, so kind of interesting. But anyway, moving on, Toronto and Orlando, real quick, taking a look at the spread. We have the Raptors, the Magic -7. Toronto -7.5 against the Magic, and the Magic are on the back-to-back here. Yeah, man, I'm not interested in making this bet. I actually think they match up fairly well, but I could also see a complete Toronto blowout. So I think they actually match up pretty close, though.
Yeah, I think Orlando came out extremely flat last night to start the game, and they couldn't quite get their way back in. I think they played better tonight. I think that if I was forced to make a 0.3 star bet on this one, I'd probably go on the Orlando side. I just feel as though that, again, like they were down 20 before you even blinked in the first quarter.
Yeah.
And I think they put it together and play a little bit better today. It's the best I could. No data to support. It's just kind of my instinct on this. So I'd rather take the points in there. From a DFS perspective, nobody particular on Orlando except for Vooch, who could be a decent low-owned center alternative to some of the more popular plays, such as Embiid and Jokic and Jared Allen, who we'll get to later. So that's where I would go. You mentioned that Terrence Ross was having some good stuff, and Terrence Ross can always get hot. So no problem with that. Aaron Gordon can always get hot. That's fine. Toronto side, I had good luck with Anunoby a few games ago. I might decide to go back with him. And you mentioned something about Kyle Lowry. I'll let you talk about that, but he's probably not my favorite guard to play.
No, that was on FanDuel. All these guys are better plays on FanDuel. I don't have a whole lot of interest on DraftKings in pretty much anyone except for Vooch a little bit, and that's even just a little bit. I also think Markelle Fultz and DJ Augustine are kind of interesting, like tournament plays with Michael Carter-Williams probably out, assuming that he is out. As is James Ennis, because the minutes will probably go up even, and he's been playing like he played 28 the other day, so another wild off the board, low cheap guy that you can throw into to your lineups. But that's pretty much it for me here.
Okay.
Eric, all of the guys in that game are underpriced on Fanduel. So pretty much they all are solid plays on Fanduel and not great plays on DraftKings. Literally all the guys who matter.
I like this last game a lot. It's really going to depend on Levert's status, though. I think that if Levert plays, well, first of all, I think if Levert plays, I like the Nets.
We have him as probable. Officially, as of 5 minutes ago, we have him as probable.
Okay, so I actually like the Nets as probably, from a betting perspective. I like them. Celtics are, they're both coming off back-to-backs, but the Nets are kind of like, Levert didn't play, so he's going to be better rested. And I do like the Nets in this spot. I don't know what's the spread here, 8 or something?
8.5.
Yeah. So that seems that I would probably lean Nets. And likewise, I have a very, very strong take, like the rest of the world, on Jared Allen in this spot. I think he's a really, really strong value on both sides, more so on DraftKings. And I also like Levert. And on the Celtics side, I like the Tatum, and you talked me into one of the other two guys you discussed. I'll definitely play some Jaylen Brown. I'd rather not play Wanamaker if I can avoid it, but we'll see how my lineups play out.
Yeah, tough matchup for Jared Allen, but I like him and tough matchup for Karis LeVert, but I like him and Jared Allen quite a bit. I like the Boston side of this with no Kemba, but I like, again, these guys are all easier to play on FanDuel. They're all going to be popular too. I think Jaylen Brown will be the lowest owned, so he's the one who I think you try and squeeze in because he's going to be lower owned than the other guys. Again, this is just my mock first build, so it doesn't mean I like one guy better than the other because of that.
Especially like Gordon Hayward's going to be really, really popular.
Yeah, and the offense does run through him a lot, but also it could easily run through Tatum today. So I sort of like Tatum, and then Jaylen Brown just plays great in this type of pace environments. Marcus Smart's had some good games in the past. He's also going to be really popular. So just remember all that. You got to mix them up, and I don't think you want to play all four together. But I do think you can play like three of these guys together and maybe even get if you want to throw Tice in there, I mean, I'm not into it. For some reason, he's popping on FanDuel like ownership, and I know that Brooklyn turns the ball over and they get their shots blocked a bunch, but I don't know. I'm having a little bit of a hard time getting on board with as much as people are telling me that I'm supposed to be on.
Daniel Tice?
Daniel Tice, yeah. I don't understand it. I feel like I've just heard it from everybody today. And
well, we'll let them play him like they played Trey Burke this one.
Well, I do like Daniel Tice in general, in these situations, but I just think that the price is – I liked him as an off-the-board play, and then I looked at the projected ownership. Maybe it's changed, and maybe it will, but I can't see him, especially on DraftKings. I don't see him going to be that owned because there's just too many good center options. But FanDuel at power forward, I don't know. Maybe they will fade away from him. We'll see. Anyway, that's going to wrap up that part of the slate for us. We'll talk about some baseball in a minute, but first I'm just going to give you guys a real quick look at my FanDuel lineups. This is actually a baseball lineup that I was probably working on. Oh, no. Here we go. We'll go to my upcoming lineups. I'll just give you guys a real quick look of what I was sort of building on FanDuel. And I was sort of trying to stack a little bit over here. It's easier to get your stacks in on FanDuel just that the pricing is really tough on DraftKings unless you try and use one of the values, which I did in Wanamaker. But I'm probably going to not really have Wanamaker here. That's going to turn very quickly. In fact, I'll do this right now. This is going to immediately become DJ Augustine because I like him at 4K over here. I think at 4K, he easily has the upside to get to the 25, 30-ish range. And honestly, I don't see him getting less than 20 very often here. I also like, if you want to go the other route, Markelle Fultz. I'm just worried about his minutes. But I did like that he was closing the other day. All right, let me just real quick do this. And we are going to put Augustine in instead as a placeholder. And there we have that. So these are just sort of these were the first builds that came to me. I think Jonas Valanciunas is a really interesting tournament play. I just think that no one's going to play him. And without Jaren Jackson Jr., with Gobert's size, and he plays well against a good other big. So I actually think it's kind of an interesting spot. You can see my bigger buy-in lineups. I've got sort of the Celtics, Brooklyn, mini stack or whatever. I didn't want to pay the $6,700 for Jared Allen over here, but I don't think it's terrible. And these are just my first builds again, but gives you an idea of what I'm doing. My other one, you got Ben Simmons at only 8K, and Embiid. Sort of went for a little bit. I wanted to stack it, but I don't really have enough from the Washington side. But I did take 4 guys from Philly and hoped it stays close. And sort of, hoping I could find another Washington guy to fill in, but I really just can't. I could try and use Hachimura instead of Gordon, which is probably what I'll do. But it's not my favorite build as of right now, although I do think it has some upside. So those are my early builds. Sheets, are you still there? It looks like we lost Sheets along this recording somewhere along the way. So we're going to keep going solo style. I'm going to jump over to baseball in just a minute. But in the meantime, let me just send something out real quick because I wanted to make sure that I had the right information on some of these ownerships and get it out to you guys as soon as possible. And we'll go from there. Anyway, all right, let me get back to sharing my screen.
What is going on, everybody?
Sorry about that. Background. We've had some. Just in case you guys don't know, there's huge storms up in the northeast, and it's cutting. It's lost sheets. We've lost the people from BetQL because we couldn't do our live stream today. Anyway, it's a really tricky situation, but I am going to pause this recording and we're going to jump back with Sheets hopefully in a minute. Okay, so I've just talked to Sheets and he's lost his power, unfortunately, so I'm going to continue solo again. This is the second day in a row. The storms are horrible. We wish everyone his health and safety out there. I know it's a real tough situation. And yeah, anyway, I'm going to have to cover this one solo. So we'll get to baseball in a minute. Again, just summing up basketball, I really like trying to find little parts of those game stacks you can. And then also you want to play guys in the last game because we're going to hear about some information. We might hear about somebody sitting that we aren't expecting. As this continues in this bubble. Sheets actually wants me to now wait for him, so he'll be back in just a second. And we're back. Sorry about the little delay there, guys. We had Eric, look, the power went out, man. I feel for you. I'm glad, it doesn't sound like anyone's in danger, right?
No one's in danger except whoever gets in the way when I freaking punch the wall from the freaking power going out. It's brutal.
Sorry about that, man. Anyway, happy you made it back with us. We're getting into baseball real quick. We've got your lineup pulled up. This isn't my lineup, but it's a placeholder, yeah.
Well, this is probably going to win. I just thought I'd let you know that. But
it's okay. It's the placeholder that's going to win everything. And I actually look at it and I see some things that I like in my lineups today. So what are we looking at first? I think we should go game by game, but I think that just overall, if you had a real quick thing that you think must play on the slate or anything like that?
Yeah, so we could go game by game because again, I have a very short list of hitters I'm going to play or hitting teams I would want to look for, and also a sort of a short list, especially on Fanduel, of pitchers and not that big of a pitchers pool on DraftKings either. So I'll be able to go game by game and probably get this done pretty easily.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's, I have a pretty small list of people too. So I'm only playing probably one big lineup on each site. Not going to be massive.
Ooh, okay.
So I'm not going to go crazy with that tonight. All right. So let's get into it. First game of the night, Minnesota and Pittsburgh. Now, playing only one lineup makes you do things differently, but I'm still very much considering a Minnesota stack or at least a mini stack. And I think we have one of the best hitters in the game in this game. I'm not interested in either pitcher. I love Max Kepler in this game, and he's my favorite one-off. But I like the stack and the usual suspects: Kepler, Rosario, Cruz, Polanco, Garver being my favorites.
Yeah, I think Minnesota is one of my 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, there's 7 teams I'm interested in, but one of the top teams on the slate. Kepler is your favorite, so that's good enough for me. But they're all these guys are in play. I mean, Cruz, Polanco even. But I think Kepler is definitely my favorite, and this could be a nice, easy game to stack. And I actually, again, it wasn't an accident. I have these Pittsburgh guys in here because when I was trying to fiddle with the build last night before I looked at things a little bit differently. A lot of these Pittsburgh guys made it work. Again, I don't know if I want to start off with a 5-man Pittsburgh stack in general, but some of these guys could be kind of cheap. Again, but I'd have to play probably a decent amount of lineups to get to them.
Yeah, they are cheap. I'll give you that one. I'm not particularly interested in the Pittsburgh side of it. I do want to mention also Jake Cave is really cheap for Cleveland. I don't know where he ended up in the lineup because I don't believe they're out yet, but he might bat as high as 5th, and he's 2,700. So I'd be looking at the Minnesota guys to sort of make it work better because I like them a little bit better, but they're and also Minnesota is significantly cheaper than we've seen them in recent times. So I really am high on the Minnesota stack.
Okay.
All right. Are you ready to move on to the next one?
Yeah.
Cincy Cleveland, we have the top pitcher on the slate. I'm pretty sure the guy all of us are going to be at least having some exposure to. What are your thoughts of Clevenger?
Yeah, not me. He was not my favorite pitcher relative to value. I don't know why. I can't imagine why, but I came up with something different, especially on FanDuel. But Clevenger, I guess, is it rates to be probably the highest scoring pitcher. And yeah, so he's definitely one of the top pitchers on the slate. I'm not probably using him in my big builds, but he certainly is in my pitchers pool. On the hitting side, I think Cleveland is a really, really good, I want to say off the board or whatever, a good secondary stack to use. And I would use the normal guys that we use on Cleveland, starting with Lindor and Ramirez.
Yeah.
And that's the way I'm going. Well, you really think Clevenger's kind of a lock, or?
I mean, I don't play I have to play the guy who's the best pitcher on the slate with the highest upside, probably one of the lowest risks at a really, really cheap price. Like, I just can't see the argument against him exactly. I know because he has one bad outing out of his last 20. We're gonna not, or what is it? Has he had 2 bad outings? No, 1 bad outing. Against Minnesota at Minnesota. And he still was struck out 5 in 4 innings. He just, he walked 5 guys, and that's going to hurt. That's a good team, though. This is not the same quality of team. A little better of a pitcher's park, like everything about it. I just think that it's if Clevenger's not going to be, he'll be in. I mean, if I was going to play 3 big lineups on DraftKings, he would be in at least 2 and probably 3.
Okay.
Maybe not 3, but probably at least 2.
Well, I will say this: that I mean, if you're going to play Clevenger, again, I literally have seen, and maybe I'm better off for it. I've seen literally no content. I've just done some projections. I've done whatever. And is he just kind of like known throughout the industry as kind of the first guy in? I mean, because I only mention that because if so, then I got to really look hard for different bats. No.
I mean, he's going to definitely be. I can't see I don't know what other people are saying, but I'm going to guess that right now, that he's going to be probably the best play.
Okay.
Like, I mean, I can just tell that. I don't need to hear what other people are saying about it for baseball and stuff. Anyway, so that's it. I agree with you about the Cleveland bats. I think you'd prioritize. I actually think I would go a little different. I'd go Lindor, then Reyes, and then Ramirez, because the third.
So these 3 right here.
Yeah, those 3 right there. Those are the
All
ones.
right, looks good to me.
Hey, I like it. But yeah, that's exactly how I would do it. I probably don't want to get the full 5-man stack, but I don't mind it. It's just not my favorite. I don't like a lot of their other pieces. So that's just my personal take. All right, let's move on. Toronto and Atlanta. Now, we're not talking about all these games from a straight betting angle, but I will try and throw in any bets that when I think there are good ones, and we haven't gotten any that I got from BetQL yet. So we're going to just keep going. I'm not going to bet this game straight up. What about your interest as far as GPPs go?
Yeah, I wasn't getting to any of this game. I wasn't getting to any of the hitters. I wasn't getting to any of the pitchers. I made a mistake not getting to the Atlanta guys. I think it was yesterday when we looked at them like it was just so hard to play because they're always so expensive, and yet they just murdered people.
Well, also then you get a first baseman in Matt Adams who's 2% owned, who hits a home run in the first inning, and then strains something and is out of the game. That kind of, it's funny because it feels great, but at first base you need to get some production. He hits a home run his first at bat. I'm ready to go. I've got everybody cruising. I've got Kendrick at second, and
wow,
and he's out of the game. And that was in my big buy-in, so that was a little frustrating. But
so I don't really have much in this game. What about you?
Yeah, I wish I had more interest in the bats in this game. I don't think playing Newcomb is a bad idea at all. I don't know if you're going to need the savings, but if you really do and you wanted to go with Clevenger and him, I do think there's enough upside here for him against the Toronto team that can get a little swing happy. I also think there's some power upside for the Toronto bats. I have no interest in using bats against Ryu, but Atlanta does have a lot of guys who hit lefties really well and profile well. And I don't really want to use Ryu against this good of a team, but I do have some interest in Newcomb, but most of my interest would be in probably like a one-off of Vlad Guerrero or a one-off of Bo Bichette. That's pretty much all my interest in this game. Like you, I'm not very interested in it.
Okay. So let's move on. So what's the, oh, I suck.
But,
I was about to ask what's the weather in Chicago.
Why? I can tell you that. Why is that? Why does that mean?
Because it's at KC.
Because at KC, yeah, it doesn't matter.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, different, a little bit of a different game all of a sudden. So, what are your thoughts on this one now that we know that it's in KC? I don't think you can.
Yeah.
The weather. It could be
So
weather, by the way.
my so the Cubs are one of my top stacks. There are four of them that are kind of my top stacks, and then there are three kind of supplementary ones. The Cubs are one of my top ones, and I was waiting to get the go ahead from you on the weather in Chicago, which doesn't make a difference because it's in Kansas City. That's where my brain's at right now. So I guess I would go with the righties. That's just my primitive way of looking at it. I would go with Baez, and I could play Trev's 4,800 is kind of rough, but Chris Bryant, who I don't usually like to play, but play him, maybe some Schwarber, and I think the Cubs are a good team to attack.
Yeah, I think that this team just crushes left-handed pitching. I have a lot of interest in the Cubs as well. I don't mind everyone down to Ian Happ, or Cody, who's ever in the lineup today. I'm interested in some form. But we do need to wait for the lineup to crack because they do have some lefties in here, so we don't know how they're going to play that situation. I'm assuming that most of them will probably play. But the priorities are Baez, Bryant, Contreras for me until we know who the starting lineup is, whether it's Happ, Bodie. Like I really need to know who's going to be in before I decide. And we've seen a couple different lineups from them versus lefties. Actually, the whole time those guys have been there. So we'll see what happens with it. But those are the priority guys. And then the other ones, I certainly don't mind them. I'm not afraid of Bubic. And yeah, I think that's one of the better spots to attack on the slate. And no interest in the bats on KC's side, and no interest in Darvish.
You can't play Darvish with Clevenger at 9,200, right? That's basically the idea.
You do it. I mean, you could do these things, but that's like I want to wait till like it's somebody who's going to pitch 8 innings or something,
Right.
Garrett Cole or something. I don't want to do it with Clevenger. Could do that though. He is that guy. Like Clevenger could be 11-2 on this slate, and I still would be talking about how he's the best play on the slate, best pitcher on the slate.
Okay, so next game, Milwaukee against the White Sox.
This one I actually do have some betting odds information from the BetQL people. It's a 3-star bet on the Brewers, and I really like that bet actually. You have basically like a pick'em game almost, and the Brewers with Hauser should be the favorite in this game. They're playing at home. They're supposed to be the better overall team. They definitely have the better bullpen. The White Sox, while they have a really scary lineup.
That game's in Chicago, I think.
Oh, my bad. This is what happens when these teams are playing each other and they switch on locations. And with all we've got going on, Sheets, couldn't they make it a little bit easier and not keep just going back and forth to each other's stadiums?
I don't know how you do. See, again, we're going to go for another dollar. I don't know how anybody can freaking play anybody against the White Sox. I mean, the White Sox are murder Hauser. No?
The second highest strikeout rate in baseball. Maybe the highest strikeout rate in baseball.
And Hauser's going to strike people out?
I'm not playing Hauser. I like Hauser. I think they're the favorite to win this particular matchup.
No, but my point is that White Sox are such a big strikeout team. Don't you want to, if you're going to bet against them, wouldn't you want to go with strikeout pitchers?
Why do I need to force in guys just because of something happening? It's not just Hauser. It's the whole bullpen. And Hauser, okay. I don't even know how many pitches he can throw. He threw 68 pitches last time. No way you can play Hauser. But that's not the point of this conversation. The point is Hauser for 5 innings and then a really strong bullpen for 4 versus Keuchel, who's hit or miss. And I actually would have liked this game better had it been in Milwaukee for Milwaukee. So I do think it's maybe a little closer than I thought. But as a 3-star bet, I definitely can get behind it. And I would pick the Brewers to win this game if I had to pick one way or the other.
Yeah, from a DFS perspective, what I would do is, and maybe this is a weird way of looking at it, but if I were going to play like the White Sox, and this is really primitive, I want to play guys that are in the top of the lineup, because I want to get at least two cracks, maybe 3 at the starters before the freaking lockdown bullpen comes in, right? So the more at-bats, the better. So where sometimes we'll dip into some of the White Sox near the bottom of the order, I'll just wait to see the lineups and maybe play 1 or 2 here. Now just so you know, I don't think I'm going to be playing the White Sox today. And that's which is and that's like saying the sun's not going to rise today either, you know. So but look, I think Hauser sucks, and I think the White Sox can do something.
Sucks.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just biased. Maybe because whenever I play him, he sucks. I don't know.
Not a starting pitcher. So you're looking at fantasy points. Like he's a good pitcher.
Okay.
He's a good pitcher, man. I don't have anything. I mean, he was dominant in his first start. He's just not a fantasy pitcher.
Okay. So as I said, I'm not playing. I don't really think I'm getting to the White Sox.
Yeah, I'm not either. Watch the White Sox score 1 million runs now.
That's possible. Whatever.
Yeah.
It's baseball.
Baseball. All right, next game, the one that probably most people are going to have attention on, I guess. John Gray and Logan Webb in Colorado. Not overwhelmingly excited about this, by the way. How about you?
Yeah, I have the same thought I had literally on yesterday. I mean, that if I like anybody, I like Colorado. I mean, Colorado between Marquez and John Gray, those are two good pitchers, and San Francisco stinks.
John Gray is totally in play today, by the way.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, like I had just no issues, playing Marquez yesterday because, I mean, whatever. So Coors Field, they get a hold of one, and they did. I mean, Duggar hit a home run, good for him, but everybody else freaking struck out. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, looking like he was going to be by far the best player of the slate.
Yeah, and then what's his name? So I might get to Gray, honestly, depending on how many lineups I play. I might just go right back to it. I think it's a good play. And I think Colorado is, I mean, clearly, I mean, for me, the best stack on the board.
Right.
And so they're going to be my priority. So if I can get kind of low-owned pitchers, like if I can fade Clevenger, which I'm going to probably do, then I can put whatever these Colorado guys I want, no?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think you prioritize the lefties in Arenado.
Okay.
Story would just be just behind them. But that's sort of the way I would go. I don't mind if Kemp's back in the lineup, keep throwing him in. He didn't have a good day yesterday, finally, for the first time in a while. He's striking out a lot, but he's also, when he's making contact, it's pretty good contact. So maybe you consider him. Owens is going to be cheap and popular again. But just remember that if you're going to mix these guys up, they're going to be really popular. So you got to try and keep them in mind. I prefer them to the San Francisco side. Also, if I had to pick a bat on the San Francisco side, I'd pick Longoria, and I don't really have a whole lot of love for anybody else. Which makes me feel like maybe I should be considering Gray even stronger. All right, ready to move on to the next one?
Yep.
Dodgers, San Diego. Look, I'm not going to get into betting on these Dodger ones. It's just I don't see any value. I think you have two really good pitchers here. This feels like a stay away, but you can always talk about Dodgers versus righties. What do you think?
Yeah, so I mean, I talked last time about that Garrett Richards is probably much improved, and eventually there's going to be a spot to play him. The first game I said that about was at Colorado, so that's probably not the best game to play him. The second game, which is probably not a great place to play him either, against the Dodgers lefties. So eventually I'll play him maybe against the Tigers or some crap like that. But I really have no interest in him. Stripling. Again, maybe on another slate I would go to him, but it's not. I just like other guys better. And I would again, this is not my favorite stack, but I would take shots at the Dodgers lefties. I would always take shots at the Dodgers lefties.
Absolutely, yeah. It doesn't seem like the optimum thing, but it's absolutely worth taking shots anytime you want to on them. They make a lot of sense. They're going to be low owned. They're not going to be project well. They're not supposed to score many runs tonight. It's a nice night in San Diego. They're fine. If you prioritize, I think you go the same normal Bellinger, Seager, and Muncy. Lefties would be the priority, but it's not a stack that I'm trying to get in right now.
Okay.
All right, Texas, Oakland.
And once again, I feel like so much of my exposure is going to come from these later games, and it doesn't happen too often in baseball. So, I mean, it didn't happen last year. Maybe that's why I didn't do as well. I don't know. But Sean Manaea, is one of my top two pitchers. My top pitcher on Fanduel, he's criminally cheap there, and he's one of my better plays on DraftKings also. I didn't get to Gibson, although I could be talked into it. Maybe a little bit on DraftKings, but I don't like any of the hitters from this game at all.
Yeah, I'm pretty much with you on that. I can get definitely – the only hitter I would play is Matt Olson.
Sure.
The Manaea thing, I definitely give the edge to Manaea, but I'm a little bit nervous. He hasn't looked very good. Kyle Gibson, I actually think, has always been an underrated pitcher and has sort of been improving year by year. Oakland's got a lot of strikeouts in their lineup. So I don't know. I could be talked into it too, but I can't see the argument, though. I guess it's hard for me to see the argument in playing Manaea but not playing Clevenger.
I know, for only 600 more, right?
Yeah, I just can't see, like Clevenger. Clevenger is the only guy. I would play Clevenger at nearly the same price as a guy like Cole on slates because he has such ridiculous upside.
Yeah, he does.
So that's just my personal thing. But so I like the idea of pairing those two together as my first building idea.
Okay. Okay, so we go on to the next game, second to last game, which is I'm gonna have just a shitload from this, both sides.
Yeah.
I think that, oh my God,
Both sides, huh?
Look at that price.
Both sides.
No. Both sides of the plate.
Yeah.
So I really like.
No, that's what I'm surprised about. I'm surprised you like the Arizona bats. I wasn't expecting that.
No, not that. What I meant was, I don't know why he's not listed. Oh, he's in my lineup. McCullers is my favorite, probably my favorite pitcher on the slate, between him and Manaea. And obviously Clevenger's fine, but I'm probably going to end up spending down for both McCullers and Manaea. And from the hitting side, I like Houston as my as just alongside of the Cubs and the Twins, honestly, and Colorado. I think like all four of those are just kind of equal for me. So now, with that said, I mean, I didn't even realize how freaking cheap Robbie Ray is. 6,500. I don't know. Christ, do I have to play him?
Coming from the guy who talked about playing him versus the Dodgers,
yeah,
and not wanting to play him now is kind of funny. But I don't think I'm going to do it. I far prefer the Houston bats. I do think the strikeout upside is there. If we get a watered down Houston lineup and let's say like two of those guys aren't playing, which has happened already this year,
yeah,
then maybe you can go there. But overall, when you see players with that kind of walk rate against teams that are that patient, you're going to get some strikeouts, you're going to get a ton of walks, and you're going to have the opportunity for a monster game stack. I mean, you look at, mentioned the same thing last time out. He walked 6 Dodgers in 4 innings. You know what I mean? You can't get away with that against these types of teams. And what happens when you walk guys like that and then you lose trouble and you're trying to control the zone, usually the guys connect with one. Also, he gives up a ton of power anyway. So I like Houston. It's hard when you look at the pricing for Houston to know how to prioritize. The Springer would always be my number one guy here, but his price is way up there. So is Altuve's, so is Bregman's. I don't mind taking if Toro's in the lineup today, I don't mind taking him at 2,400. I played him in my big lineup last night at third base. He's better. He's got some decent stuff coming up, and it's a way to spend down and get away from Bregman's. Obviously the great play, but I don't know if you can get to them. So I'm in on everybody, but I like those guys. I also think that if you put like a guy like Brantley who makes a lot of contact, if he is back in the lineup for any reason tonight, he would project pretty well against him. So I don't have any problem with any Houston bats, and I'm not as high on McCullers as you are tonight. I'm a little bit worried about some of the lefties in the Arizona lineup and their patience, and he's walk happy again too. He's just sloppy with this control, and that's what worries me. So I'm gonna play him some probably, but in my 2 big lineups, I don't see him making it right now. I like Manaea just better than I like him, and I kind of think Gibson might be a better off the board play, but I like McCullers in general. I just haven't seen the same things from him early to start this year. And I could end up regretting it tonight. I could end up changing my mind, but as of right now, he's not my priority guy.
Okay, so in the last game, I like the Angels a lot as a kind of a secondary stack alongside, like the same way I feel about Cleveland. Different types of team, obviously, but just with respect to ownership and all that stuff. So I'm definitely interested in the Angels side of it. I'd love to know who's playing. I mean, I was all keyed up with Upton yesterday, and he got scratched.
Yeah,
but you keep making fun of him, by the way. But every time I turn my head, Pujols hitting another home run.
I'm not making fun of him. I'm just not going to play him.
No, I got you. But so I would take a shot with the late night hammer with the Rendon at third. Yeah, he's another good so he's third baseman, right? So you have Ramirez at 4,700.
Oh, I lost you there.
You got so look at these third basemen between Ramirez and Bregman and Rendon. These are some powerful freaking guys at third.
Yeah, it's a strong position today, which is why the Toro thing's a little bit hard, but it also does allow you a lot more in your Houston stack. Yeah, it's the Angels with Rendon. I get it. I like Rendon in general. I'm just going to remind everybody why we all of a sudden decided Marco Gonzalez was bad at pitching. I don't know, but somebody in Vegas woke the hell up today and doesn't have the Angels run total at 6.5 like it was last time they played. And by the way, in that game, Marco Gonzalez was the best, not only the best value on the slate, he was the best pitcher on the slate. Of anybody.
He sure was.
So he's also pitched against this team a bunch of times before. I don't have any interest in stacking the Angels. I don't mind Trout at any time. And it is weird how that baby narrative in baseball, that's the narrative in baseball for some reason. Everybody who has a baby comes back and hits a home run. I don't know how that works, but somehow it always seems to happen. And sure enough, Trout last night, they were joking about it on the other show I was watching, and right away, boom, home run. But Upton is still a terrific play. Trout's still a terrific play, and so is Rendon. I just don't think I'm going to get into a full stack against a guy who's been pretty good at limiting damage.
What do you think of Seattle?
I don't.
Okay. Tehran, I mean, you don't want to go after him somehow?
I didn't really think about it at Seattle, to be honest. I didn't really think.
I didn't either. I'm just kind of staring at it, you know?
Yeah, it's not so much for me. I just don't see how it's going to work. In general, like Tehran, when he was pitching, is a pretty damn good pitcher. So I don't know what he's going to be like. I don't think I need to gamble on that one.
Okay, so once again, so for me, it's really pretty straightforward. It's just a question of how I want them, right? So for me, it's going to be some combination of, and obviously I'm going to get probably some Clevenger, right? So there'll be some combination of Clevenger, McCullers, and Minaya. And I'm trying to talk myself off of Robbie Ray right now.
Yeah.
Because one of the hitters I like is I do like the Astros, Cubs, Twins, Colorado, and then secondarily Angels and Cleveland. Yeah,
I can get behind that. I'm leaning Minnesota. I like the 2-man from Cleveland, maybe a 3-man, and then I really like obviously I like Colorado and Houston. Those are my.
So who's your so right now your main pitcher would be Clevenger and with Minaya.
With Minaya, if I needed to spend down, I would consider Newcomb probably number 1.
Oh wow, okay.
And then I would probably I don't like his strikeout rate, but I'm looking at Toronto's team and even the run total and everything, and also the fact that he'll throw pitches, and he's just he's not a bad pitcher. He just has been bad so far in 2 games. It's not a big deal. But Robbie Ray certainly is interesting. Like it is the guy maybe what does he have, the 3rd best K rate on the slate, and he's 6,500. So
right.
But I just don't think I'm going to find myself doing it unless Houston doesn't put out that watered down lineup though. You know, you can always, if you get like, if Bregman and Altuve are, for example, if Bregman and Springer and Correa are out of the lineup today, you can absolutely take the shot with Robbie Ray.
That would be such a sick thing to do, like on DraftKings or every place where you could late swap is.
Well, that was my sick move that I made last week with Marco Gonzalez. Remember we talked about it? We were all into stacking all about the Angels then, and everybody was all about the Angels, and then I wasn't into the Angels, but I wasn't into Marco Gonzalez. Then I saw that Trout was out, and I just switched everything over with Trout in it to Marco Gonzalez starting pitcher. Like I was like, oh, let's just do this, and it worked out great in those lineups, but. Unfortunately, I didn't have enough Trout, so I didn't have enough Marco. But
what I'm saying is, like, if you have like a bunch of Houston guys, for example, and then like some guys get scratched or whatever, then again they probably scratch early enough that it wouldn't make much of a difference because there's all these other 9-10 games. But what I was going to say is that you could pivot right to Ray and then you expensive Houston money and pick up Trout and Rendon later.
Hey, it's interesting. I like that. I like that kind of way of thinking. I think it's a clever way of going about it. All right, man. Hey, this is good. Guys, we really appreciate you tuning in with us for the QLTV show. Sorry not to be able to do the live stream today. We had some technical difficulties because of the power outages on the East Coast. We should be back up and running.
If I get my power back, by the way, like later tonight somehow, then I do want to do the golf thing. I'll keep you updated.
Yeah. We'll be if whether or not Sheets is there or not, we'll definitely have a golf to you by sometime this evening. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in with us. Sheets, thanks a lot for hanging in. For QLTV, for Sheets, I'm BobbyFi saying good luck tonight. We'll see you at the top of the leaderboards.